Hello, Mioni here, and welcome to a short update then talking about the official benchmark update. So if you don't know already, Dawntrail official benchmark to test out your PC as well as see your character in all of its glory in Dawntrail is and has been available for quite some time in a sort of primitive fashion. There was quite a few bugs with the benchmark itself graphically, and they've also worked based off of feedback from players who have tried the benchmark with a scheduled update. Originally, as it says in this post today, posted on the 31st of May 2024, we have information that they plan to launch either yesterday or today. That was their tentative release date, but they've unfortunately had to push this back to Monday the 3rd of June, which still in the grand scheme of things is only a few more days, right? But they're just trying to be open about this and transparent. They say here with Yoshi P's notice on the lodestone, we are already in the final debugging phase of the benchmark, but on the first day of the final review, we discovered an issue which triggers instability within the software. We corrected the issue and are currently redoing the final review from scratch, which unfortunately put us behind schedule by a little over a day. Furthermore, Yoshi P says our development officers are scheduled for a full power outage during building inspections on Saturday, June 1st and June 2nd, which is the Sunday, which would prevent us from following up on any post-release issues that may arise. In order for us to provide our full support as soon as possible after release, I felt it was necessary to postpone the release until the 3rd of June on the Monday. And honestly, that makes perfect sense. They want to be there if there's something bad, if they need to pull it immediately and, do any updates. It is quite the thing, but once they get this right, then, they can apply that to the final fixes for the actual expansion, right? On the polishing phase of the expansion. So it is important to get it right. So it should be understandable that the benchmark's going to be on Monday. Secondly, they say review and reconfiguration of character creation's environmental parameters. So this was one of the main reasons why they decided to actually take the feedback on board and redo the benchmark in quite a lot of detail. Actually, they've gone a lot further than I expected. Yoshi P says various environmental parameters such as lighting, positioning of light sources and weather for the environmental maps have all been reconfigured to match the first round of graphical updates. These revisions have been applied to not only the benchmark but the game itself from Dawntrail onwards as well. Hence why this was, important. All environments featured in the character creation menu have received significant updates, and I encourage you to check the details in the revised benchmark software. That being said, he says, some areas have received major specification additions, which I will summarize below. So as they talk here, lighting in character creation's ethereal background. This background was originally designed with a concept of an area where ether courses freely, and the imagery was reinforced with the use of blue lighting. However, the blue colored tint made it difficult to visualize what a character's skin tone would look like under normal lighting. For this revision, we considered eliminating blue lighting to replicate a typical in-game environment. However, doing so would drastically change the impression of character creation compared to before and could be disorienting, so the blue lighting was left as is. Instead, the ethereal background's time of day option, which had gone unused until now, was repurposed to add a new variant of a background with a blue lighting disabled. With this addition, we're also able to fulfill requests from players who had wanted a photo studio-like environment similar to what screenshot enthusiasts recreate with in-game housing. So with those borders, when you have that white backdrop, the photo backdrop. So that's really cool. So when you press that button, you can toggle between obviously lighting 1 and 2, so the blue light or white light. Really cool. It says, as you see in the image above, selecting the clock icon allows you to adjust the lighting and the time of day on the displayed background. With the ethereal background, however, this feature has been expanded into a lighting selection. The default option will be blue lighting, and the second option is the plain. And as you can see here, there's the demonstration. So as you can see, a lot of people were finding that quite difficult to see the skin tone of a character. That's fairly self-explanatory. This is the toggled option, which I think is incredible. It's so much better. Yoshi P says, I encourage everyone to try both options to see how they affect your character's appearance. I imagine these nuances will add even more depth to the character creation process, and it definitely looks like it from these pictures. Secondly, there's the removal of vignette effects on the character creation menu. Up until now, Yoshi P says the character creation menu displayed a dark translucency, visually similar to limb darkening, so around the menu options to improve their visibility. However, we decided to remove this effect as it tended to influence the color perception of character features such as hair or skin. This will slightly affect the menu's visibility, but we made this decision in favor of making the visual impression of characters closer to how they appear in the game itself. And as you can see, there's the before and after. So if you wanted to see, basically the text is a little less legible, but yeah, they're right. It does kind of distract less from a character, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. It's not quite as much of a game changer as the lighting time of day option on the ethereal option. I love that. That's so cool. And yeah, I love the fact that they're working so hard on this and then applying what they've learned to the game. And then third point, addressing feedback and issues related to certain data and processes. Various data revisions and corrections have been made in order to address as much player feedback as possible, and I will summarize with a few examples below. So pupil highlights and lip gloss in particular. So there's a little picture here as well if we scroll down. Let's get that on screen at the same time. It says the old highlights, which were drawn in using textures and consequently did not change based on lighting positions and other factors, have been removed and replaced with new highlights that are rendered based on lighting processes. However, the initial version of the benchmark featured a weakened version of these lighting process and an insufficient lighting environment. This caused highlights to appear small, and the eyes in particular made characters appear soulless, quote unquote. The updated benchmark features enhanced lighting processes as well as changes to lighting and other environmental features, so I encourage everyone to check out the new beautifully crisp highlights for themselves. We also revised the rendering process and textures of lips to make them more attractive. Rest assured, Yoshi P says these revisions will not only be reflected in character creation but will be present in the game itself as well. And yeah, that before and after, this is probably a very unfair example, in my opinion. I think they showed a previous rendition of this that was slightly more, more favorable with better lighting. The fact that they're showing this in the shade is really nice in this picture. I think that's a really, really big glow up. But definitely a minor one in comparison to what it could look like, right, in some of the other images. Really cool stuff. Facial impression, smile, lines, and skin then. One of the comments we received, he says, about the initial version of the benchmark was how the facial impressions of certain races had changed around the eyes. This was an unintended consequence of the updated lighting methods and shaders, as well as high-resolution support for textures and normal maps, data for mimicking surface indentations, he puts in brackets here, which caused the existing wrinkles and contours of these faces to become more pronounced. After carefully reviewing various feedback pertaining to these changes, we redrew the high-resolution textures and normal maps to bring the results as close as we could to the state of patch 6.58. So I would appreciate if you could check them out. So as you can see here, that is completely different. That is so much better, at least in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that, but I certainly think that the face feels, I don't know, I haven't got a lot of ways to describe this in a meaningful way, so I'm just going to say it looks better, but it just does, doesn't it? I don't know. I don't think that's an opinion. I think that's just a fact. Next up then we have a correction of low resolution sections of hair. This is something I noticed actually on my Miqo'te. Many of these had simply not been addressed in time, but in regards to issues such as low resolution textures remaining only in certain sections of certain hairstyles, we referenced player feedback to ensure nothing was left out as we updated them with high resolution textures. So as you can see here, they have actually addressed that. So You shouldn't see as many like weird patches as we saw with the previous benchmark build, which is nice to see. That's really cool. Self-shadowing optimizations and adjustments. So you've got here of a Lalafell of those shadows. This point is regarding how characters had a somewhat mottled appearance due to shadows projected by their hair and other elements of their character model. We made as many improvements as we could to ensure the self-shadowing would look good on every hairstyle, such as enhancing self-shadowing processes, adjusting normal maps, implementing special lighting, and determining which hair details should and shouldn't cast a shadow. And as you can see here, there's a lot less shadows visible on the face, but it definitely looks more believable, I think. I don't know. I kind of liked the way it was before, personally. I didn't have a massive issue with it, but I suppose that is at least slightly more realistic on the right. But I had no problem personally with the left, but if that's the decision they want to go, that's cool. Environmental lighting adjustments. When characters were backlit, oh yeah, or in shadow, the softened shading made details appear rather flat. As such, we made overall adjustments to characters' environmental lighting to preserve a three-dimensional appearance, even when a character wasn't being lit. We also made minor adjustments to the overall environment, such as fog. Okay, that's cool. That's important. These adjustments too will be applied for both character creation and the game itself. So as you can see, these are probably slightly harder to see on this picture. I advise you definitely go to this actual page and look yourself, because YouTube's probably going to butcher this. But as you can see, it is literally a night and day experience, isn't it? You know, pun not intended there. So much more visibility, yet you still have that, you know, being in shade. Really, really cool, actually. This is a really good example as well of it being slightly more noticeable with the color in the cheeks as well. A lot less washed out. I like that a lot. That's really cool. They say, we made numerous other adjustments in addition to what I outlined above, so I hope you'll keep an eye out for them in the updated benchmark and Dawntrail. I'm sure we will. I can't wait to see. Number 4, direction of character graphical update and regarding Fantasias. So, this is the last point, and it's quite a big one. As I mentioned above, during the process of updating the benchmark, we carefully investigated the feedback from all regions to not only update the benchmark as much as possible, but also to refine the graphical update for Dawntrail's launch. We will continue fine-tuning Dawntrail in the period leading up to launch, but the bulk of our adjustments and fixes are reflected in the update in the benchmark. On another note, Yoshi P says the upcoming first round of graphical updates is also an upgrade of the 14 rendering system overall. In particular, the processes related to shadows, lighting, and shaders have been significantly changed and enhanced from the previous rendering system. This means that details such as pupil highlights and lip gloss, which were previously rendered with hand-drawn textures to reduce processing load, will be replaced with the correct method of rendering them. After the initial version of the benchmark was released, we closely examined the feedback we received and made further adjustments to replicate their previous appearances. Even so, Yoshi P says we imagine the subtle differences in nuance will inevitably cause some characters to look ever so slightly different compared to before. Should that be the case, a file of Fantasia will be obtainable from a brand new quest that will be added with a release of 7.0, which will allow you to fine-tune your character's appearance. Additionally, as I mentioned in our recent letter from a producer live, a new feature will be added to those Fantasia files as of 7.0. After using a Fantasia, you will have 60 minutes of in-game playtime from the initial usage of that Fantasia to re-edit your character's appearance as many times as you wish. I hope this new feature, he says, will be helpful as well. So instead of it just being like a one-shot, like you've created your character and you go in the game and it looks terrible, you don't have to buy another Fantasia. You know, as long as you've still got something left on that timer, you can go back in to the main menu and re-edit your character, which is really nice, very generous, and should save people a lot of money. As always, Yoshi P says we will remain open to feedback even after the updated benchmark update and Dawntrail have been released, and they will also continue to address any issues or necessary adjustments in future patches. With only about a month left, says Yoshi P, until Dawntrail's official release, our final adjustments and debugging are being carried out on at breakneck speed, he says. Please look forward to early access on Friday, June 28th, as well as the official launch on July 2nd. And there we go. Thanking you for your support, Naoki Yoshida, the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. So honestly, this is more than worth a wait. I think it's probably some of the most wholesome and transparent development I have seen on this game in relation to something that may or may not look as simple as just a benchmark. Because player feedback, I don't think, has ever been so directly reflected in such a small window of turnaround. It's really, really cool to read this, and if everything like this is being changed for the better and improved on based on player feedback and reactions, this could be a really, really great step forward to the next 10 years. Really, really cool. Anyway, I'm really excited to crack on with the benchmark on the 3rd of June, and I'm sure you'll be able to download that and make your character again and see what your character looks like. I personally can't wait to play the game, so we'll have to wait and see what the benchmark brings. Anyway, much love. Let me know what you think about this and the transparency. I think it's refreshing, and I want more of this. It's very nice. It's very nice to see. And of course, everyone at Square Enix is hard at work to finalize the game, and we all are waiting with bated breath to get stuck into that. Much love, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.